had been in love with her for what felt like a lifetime. Not the loud, fireworks kind of love. It was quieter, more stubborn. A steady flame that refused to go out. She was 30. I was 24. 6 years isn't much in the grand scheme of things, but emotionally, it felt like a canyon. She had presence, composure, and a sense of knowing exactly who she was, the kind of confidence I was still pretending to have. When I first met her, I barely spoke. She didn't say much either, but when she did, every word felt intentional. I admired her from a distance, as most young men do when they think they're not enough. But somehow, slowly, over months of bumping into each other at the same cafes, sharing occasional glances and casual chats, something began to bloom. We started talking more. A message here, a coffee there. And finally, after what felt like a lifetime of hesitation, I asked her out. Not with some grand plan, just a quiet, "Would you want to grab dinner sometime?" She smiled. "I don't really do restaurants," she said. My heart sank. But then she added, "Why don't you come over? I'll cook. We'll keep it simple." That invitation echoed in my head for days. I kept replaying it, wondering if I had imagined the warmth in her voice. I agonized over every detail. What should I wear? Should I bring wine? Would flowers be too much? I decided to bring nothing, to just be present, open, and real. On the day of our non-date, I stood outside her door, palms sweating, heart thudding. I knocked once, lightly, then again. She opened the door barefoot, wearing a loose sweater and leggings, hair tied back casually. No makeup, no performance, just her. She smiled and stepped aside to let me in. "Hey," she said. That one word melted every ounce of nervous tension in my chest. Her apartment smelled like garlic, rosemary, and something rich simmering on the stove. It was warm, lived in, and effortlessly beautiful. Books were stacked on every surface. Soft lighting poured from lamps instead of overhead lights. There were tiny, personal touches everywhere. Postcards from foreign countries, dried flowers in jars, and tiny hand-sculpted figurines on shelves. It was like stepping into her soul. "I hope you're hungry," she said. I smiled. "Starving." She poured us drinks, something citrusy and fizzy. We sat at the kitchen table and talked while the food finished cooking. At first, it was light, music, work, favorite places to travel. Then it got deeper. She asked about my family. I told her about my little brother, how he always calls me when he needs advice but never listens. She laughed. "I have one of those too." There was something easy about her laughter, like it had weight and history but still came out light. Dinner was pasta with lemon and herbs, a side of roasted vegetables and homemade bread. Nothing fancy, but it was perfect. And the way she plated everything, like it mattered, made me feel cared for in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. At one point, she stood up and turned off the overhead lights, then lit 2 candles in the center of the table. The shift was instant. What had been a casual dinner suddenly felt like something sacred. The flickering flames painted shadows across her face. She looked ethereal. We talked through the entire meal. She asked thoughtful questions, not the kind that skimmed the surface. She wanted to know what I believed in, what scared me, what I thought about late at night when I couldn't sleep. And I told her, not everything, but more than I'd told anyone in a while. And she listened, really listened, like my words were something valuable. As we finished the last bites, one of the candles began to drip wax down the side of the glass. I watched it, hypnotized, and suddenly realized I felt the same way, melting, softening, becoming something unrecognizable. I hadn't felt this drawn to someone since high school. After dinner, she stood up and stretched. "Want to move to the bedroom?" she asked. I must have blinked, startled. She laughed. "Just for the movie. It's cozier in there." I followed her. Her bedroom was simple, cozy, and smelled faintly of vanilla. A small bookshelf sat near the bed, stacked with poetry and travel guides. She grabbed an old DVD from a case on the dresser and popped it into the player. We sat on her bed, backs against the pillows, shoulder to shoulder. The movie started. An old romantic comedy with dry humor and a plot neither of us paid much attention to. We talked through most of it, about the worst movies we'd ever seen, about actors we irrationally hated. At one point, she asked about my tattoos. I showed her the one on my arm, a phrase in a language only I could read. She traced it gently with her finger. "What does it say?" "It's a reminder to stay grounded," I said. She nodded. "Do you need that often?" "Too often." There was a pause, a soft silence that wasn't uncomfortable. She shifted closer, so close I could smell the faint scent of citrus on her skin. Her fingers moved slowly across my wrist. She took my hand. It wasn't a romantic grab. It was slower, more curious, like she was holding a question. I looked at her. She looked back. Her gaze was steady, not inviting exactly, just open. And I froze. Not because I didn't want to kiss her. I did, more than anything. But something inside me, fear maybe, told me to hold back, to wait, to not mess this up by misreading a signal. So I just smiled. We talked a little more. Eventually, she glanced at the clock. "It's late," she said, almost reluctantly. "We should sleep." And I took it as my cue to leave. Like the world's most awkward amateur, I stood up and reached for my shoes. She tilted her head slightly. "You're leaving?" I laughed nervously. "Yeah, I figured." She didn't say anything, just nodded slowly. I walked to the door, trying to salvage my cool. "Dinner was amazing," I said. "Thanks. And tonight was really special."
I'm glad.
I opened the door, stepped into the hallway, turned back once. She stood in the doorway, silhouetted by candlelight. "Good night," I said. "Good night." The door closed, and my stomach dropped. I walked home in silence. The night was cool, the streets empty, but inside, my thoughts were deafening. Why didn't I kiss her? Why didn't I stay? Why did I act like some awkward teenager? When I got home, I paced the room. Then I picked up my phone, typed and deleted 4 different messages. Finally, I sent, "Thank you again. That was one of the best nights I've had in a long time." The food was divine. A minute passed, then 2. Then her reply came through. "This chef didn't get a kiss." I stared at the screen. Read it once, twice, 3 times. My heart was in my throat. She wanted me to kiss her. She had been waiting, and I walked away, like a complete idiot. I stared at her message for what felt like an eternity. This chef didn't get a kiss. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't angry. It was playful, flirtatious, hopeful. I didn't know. I wanted to believe it was a door, not a wall, that she was leaving it open for me. But my brain kept replaying the moment I left. Her eyes when I stood up, that soft look of surprise. She wasn't telling me to leave. She was telling me to stay. And I missed it. I blew it. I started typing back, then stopped, deleted, typed again. What do you even say to that? Sorry, I was a coward? I didn't know if it was okay? No excuse would be enough, but saying nothing would be worse. So I finally wrote, "I didn't want to assume, but I haven't stopped thinking about it." She didn't respond right away. I paced, went to the kitchen, drank water, stared at my phone like it was a bomb. 10 minutes later, she replied, "Next time, don't hesitate." My heart skipped. There it was, the second chance, the open door. She was giving it to me, still giving it to me, and I wasn't going to waste it. I sat down and typed, "Will there be a next time?" This time, she replied almost instantly, "There could be, but you better bring dessert." I laughed aloud, not a nervous laugh, not an overthinking laugh, a real one, the kind that starts in your chest and works its way up. I typed back, "I'll bring dessert, flowers, and a much better goodbye." She sent back a winking emoji. That was the end of the night. I went to bed floating, eyes closed, still tasting her cooking, still feeling her fingers tracing my tattoos, still regretting leaving, but grateful I hadn't lost the chance to fix it. The next few days passed slowly. She had a full week of work ahead, long shifts, meetings, and deadlines. We didn't text constantly, just a few messages a day. But they were warmer, more playful. There was a rhythm now, a shared understanding that something had shifted. On Thursday, she texted, "Friday night." I replied instantly, "Name the time." She said, "7, and don't be late." I spent most of Friday overthinking again, but this time it was a different kind of energy. Excited, focused, determined not to screw it up. I bought dessert, 2 slices of rich dark chocolate cake from a little bakery downtown. I picked up flowers, not roses, too cliché, but a small bundle of wildflowers that looked like something from a meadow, and I showed up at her door at exactly 6:58. She opened the door in a black t-shirt and jeans, hair down, barefoot again, but this time there was something in her eyes, something mischievous. "2 minutes early," she said. "I wanted to make sure I didn't miss my kiss." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, so now you're bold." I stepped inside, held out the dessert box, and the flowers. "Peace offerings," I said. She took them, smirking. "You might be redeemable." Dinner was already cooking. The air was warm, filled with the scent of ginger, lime, and garlic. "I hope you're hungry," she said. "Starving." We sat in the kitchen again, but this time, everything felt different. There was no hesitation in our conversation, no tiptoeing. She teased me about my nervous exit last time. I admitted I'd been overthinking everything. "I get in my head," I said. "A lot." She nodded. "I figured, but you didn't write me off." "Not yet." That line stuck with me. She hadn't written me off. She'd given me another shot. She was watching, waiting, not just for me to kiss her, but to show up. Dinner was incredible again. A stir-fry with tofu and vegetables, jasmine rice, and a cold cucumber salad with mint. I complimented everything like I was a food critic. She laughed at my ridiculous metaphors. "You make it sound like a 5-star meal," she said. "It is," I replied. "You cook like you've got Michelin stars hidden somewhere." The candles came out again, 2 little flames dancing between us. And this time I didn't stare at them. I stared at her. We lingered after the plates were cleared, just talking about things we loved, things we regretted, things we were still figuring out. At one point, she got quiet. "I used to think I had everything figured out at 25, she said. "Now I know that's when I started unfiguring everything." I nodded. "I feel like I'm just getting started." She looked at me, not with judgment, but with something softer, recognition. "You are," she said. After dinner, we moved to the couch instead of the bedroom. Felt more casual, less loaded. We curled up under a blanket, the TV playing a documentary neither of us really watched. At one point, she laid her head on my shoulder. My arm wrapped around her naturally, and then finally I turned to her. She looked up, eyes soft, lips parted just slightly. I leaned in slowly. This time there was no doubt, no question. Her hand met the side of my face just before our lips met. The kiss was gentle at first, testing, searching, then deeper, warmer, familiar, like something we'd been waiting for. When we pulled back, she smiled. "Took you long enough." I laughed. "Worth the wait. We'll see." We didn't rush anything after that. We kept watching the documentary, arms tangled, heads resting. There was no urgency, no pressure, just presence. At some point, she stood up and said, "You're staying tonight, right?" I smiled. "If you want me to." She raised an eyebrow. "You think I lit all these candles for fun?" We brushed our teeth together like we'd done it 100 times before, crawled into bed, talked in the dark about music, our worst dates, and childhood fears. Her hand found mine under the blanket, and we fell asleep like that, fingers laced, hearts open. I woke up once during the night. The moonlight was pouring across her face. She looked peaceful, breathing slow, and I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't overthinking. I wasn't performing. I was just there, with her, and it felt like exactly where I was supposed to be. The morning light spilled through the curtains like a gentle whisper. I opened my eyes slowly, unsure for a moment where I was. Then I felt the warmth beside me. Her hand was still holding mine. Her hair was splayed across the pillow, her breathing soft and rhythmic. I lay there for a while, afraid to move, afraid to break the spell. In that quiet space between sleep and waking, everything felt fragile, perfect, real. She stirred eventually. Her eyes fluttered open and focused on me. "Morning," she murmured. "Morning," I replied, my voice still coated in sleep. She stretched lazily, then turned onto her side to face me. Her face, bare and unguarded in the soft light, was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "You snore," she said. I gasped. "What? No way. Just a little," she teased. "Like a sleepy cat." I groaned and hid my face under the pillow. "Please forget everything." "Nope," she laughed. "Too late." We stayed in bed for a while longer, trading sleepy jokes, brushing fingers, stealing little kisses. It was casual, effortless, like we had done this 100 times before. She finally pulled herself out of bed. "Come on," she said. "I make a killer French toast." I followed her into the kitchen, where sunlight made everything golden. Barefoot, hair tousled, moving without hurry. She looked like something out of a dream. I sat at the counter, sipping coffee while she cooked. We didn't talk much. It was a comfortable silence, the kind where you don't feel the need to fill every second. Just being in the same space was enough. She placed the French toast in front of me, dusted with powdered sugar and topped with berries. I took a bite and closed my eyes. "Okay," I said. "You're trying to ruin other breakfasts for me forever." "That's the plan," she said, sitting across from me with a smirk. We ate slowly, laughing about random things. Childhood stories, weird dreams, a neighbor's loud cat that kept her up last week. When breakfast was over, she leaned back in her chair. "So," she said, "how do you feel about second mornings?" I blinked. "You mean like having more of them?" She smiled. "Something like that. I feel," I said carefully, "like I could wake up next to you every morning and never get tired of it." She tilted her head slightly, then nodded once. "That's a good answer." We spent most of the afternoon doing nothing, and yet everything. Lying on the couch, listening to music, taking turns choosing songs and explaining why we loved them. She played a soft, jazzy track by a singer I'd never heard of. I played a raw acoustic piece that reminded me of my father. She didn't laugh. She listened, asked questions. She told me stories about her 20s, about people she loved, mistakes she made, places she'd left behind. "I used to think I needed to know the ending before I could start something," she said. Now I just want to feel it while it's real." That line sat with me. I was always thinking 10 steps ahead, worried about outcomes, endings, risks. But with her, I didn't want to skip ahead. I wanted to live every page. That evening, I got up to leave. We'd spent nearly 24 hours together. And still, I didn't want to go. But I didn't want to overstay. She walked me to the door. We stood there, neither of us moving for a long second. "Thanks for staying," she said. "Thanks for letting me." We kissed slow, soft, lingering. And then I stepped into the hallway, heart full and floating. When I got home, I texted her. "Is it weird that I already miss you?" She replied, "Not weird, just honest." That week, we texted constantly. Good morning messages, random pictures, jokes, thoughts. And then on Wednesday night, she sent, "Rough day. I need a hug." I didn't even think twice. "On my way." She opened the door with a tired smile and tired eyes. I didn't ask questions. I just pulled her into my arms. We stood there, holding each other in silence. Eventually, she said, "I didn't want to be alone tonight." "You're not." We lay on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. No TV, no music, just quiet. She told me about a tough meeting, a friend who was moving away, a lingering fear that she was behind in life. I listened, kissed her forehead, held her like I could shield her from the world. We didn't sleep together that night, not in the way people mean. We slept beside each other, close, real, and it meant more than anything else could have. The next morning, she whispered, "Thank you for coming." I just kissed her cheek. "You don't have to thank me." She looked into my eyes, like she was trying to memorize something. Then she smiled. "I know." Over the next few weeks, we fell into a rhythm. It wasn't planned. It wasn't defined. But it was real. Some nights I stayed over. Other nights we just called, falling asleep on the phone like kids. Sometimes we'd spend the whole day together, doing absolutely nothing. Sometimes we'd go hours without speaking, but it never felt like distance. We were just steady, present. She introduced me to new foods, books, music. She shared her world in pieces, never all at once. And each piece made me want more. One Saturday afternoon, I surprised her with a picnic in the park. I packed sandwiches, fruit, drinks, even brought a worn-out blanket I'd had since college. She laughed when she saw it. "This thing is a disaster. It has character," I protested. "It has holes." Character. We sat under a tree, the sunlight cutting through the leaves like golden strings. We ate, talked, watched people pass by, families, couples, runners, dogs. At one point, a little boy ran up and offered her a flower. She took it with a warm smile and whispered, "Thank you, Prince." He blushed and ran back to his parents. She looked at me and said, "Kids always find me." I laughed. "Because you feel safe." She was quiet for a moment, then said softly, "I think that's the nicest thing anyone said to me." I reached for her hand. She let me hold it. That night, back at her place, we lay in bed facing each other. "I've been thinking," she said. I braced myself. That phrase always made my heart twitch. "About what?" "You and me." My heart definitely twitched. "In a bad way?" She shook her head. "No, just in a real way." I nodded, letting her continue. "You're younger," she said. "I know. You're still figuring things out." "I am. And I don't want to be something that confuses you more." "You're not." She looked at me with that gaze that saw too much. "That's kind of the problem," she said. I frowned. "I don't follow." "You make me want things again," she whispered. "And that's terrifying." I moved closer. "You terrify me too." She laughed softly, but her eyes didn't change. "I've built this life," she said. "I've got routines, career, expectations. And then you walk in like this wild card and everything shifts. Is that bad?" "No," she said. "But it makes me question everything I thought I knew." I brushed her hair from her face. "I don't want to break your life. I just want to be in it." She exhaled slowly. "I want that too. But I need to be honest with you. Always. I don't do casual well. I don't want casual." Her eyes searched mine for a long time. Then she nodded. "Okay." That night, we didn't say "I love you," but something bigger passed between us. Promise. A choice. Something that didn't need a name. In the days that followed, we started integrating our worlds more. She came to one of my art shows, stood in the back, arms crossed, smiling the entire time. I visited her office one evening to drop off coffee during a long shift. We met some of each other's friends. Carefully, slowly, one at a time. She met my sister over brunch. They clicked instantly. "She's incredible," my sister said after. "Protect her." "Believe me, I'm trying." One night, as we walked home from dinner, I noticed her growing quiet. We passed a bookstore, and she paused, staring through the window. "What is it?" I asked. "Nothing," she said, but her voice was distant. We kept walking. A block later, I tried again. "You sure?" She looked at me. "I'm just scared." "Of what?" "Of being wrong." I stopped walking. "Talk to me." She sighed. "It's not you. It's history." "His?" "Mine." She paused. "I've opened up before. Thought I was careful. Thought I was ready. And I got left. Or worse, strung along." I took her hand. "Do I seem like the string you along type?" "No." "That's the problem. You seem like everything I want. And that terrifies me." I squeezed her fingers. "I can't promise I won't mess up." She smiled sadly. "But I can promise I won't walk away the moment things get complicated." She nodded. That's all I needed to hear. We kept walking hand in hand. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I watched her beside me, eyes closed, breathing soft. I thought about how many people had probably hurt her before, how many times she'd been brave enough to try again. And now here I was, the next person in line. I made a silent vow to myself. Don't be the one who adds to the damage. Be the one who helps it heal. The next few weeks blurred into each other like soft brushstrokes. Days passed gently, nights even gentler. But somewhere in the quiet, a question began to form inside me. Not loud, not urgent, but persistent. Where do I fit in her life? She had routines, stability, career she loved, friends who had known her for years, ex-lovers who probably still thought about her. And me? I was still figuring it out. I worked part-time gigs, pursued my art, had ideas, dreams, but not much to show for them yet. I knew she didn't care about money or status. She never made me feel small, but sometimes I did that to myself. One night, we were sitting on her balcony, sipping wine. The city buzzed softly beneath us. She wore a hoodie and shorts, her knees pulled to her chest. I ran into someone today, she said. Yeah, someone I used to date. My stomach tightened. I tried to sound casual. Oh. He was surprised to see me. I nodded. Did it feel weird? She tilted her head, thinking. A little, but not in a bad way. Do you still talk? Not really. She paused. He wasn't a bad guy. Just not, right? I took a sip of wine, trying not to overthink. But I did. I imagined them together. Older, more polished, probably with his life fully together. I looked at her. She was staring out over the city, peaceful, grounded, and I felt like a storm next to her. Do you ever wish you ended up with someone more stable? I asked. She turned to me, surprised. Where did that come from? I shrugged. Just a thought. She put down her glass, then looked at me carefully. You think I want someone else? No. Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough. She blinked slowly, then got up, walked over and sat on my lap, her arms wrapped around my neck. She pressed her forehead to mine. Don't do that, she whispered. Do what? Shrink yourself. I'm not. Yes, you are. Her voice was firm. But I see you. She kissed me, slow and certain. I chose you, she said. Not by accident. Not because I settled. Because I wanted to. I didn't respond at first, because the lump in my throat was too big. But I nodded and held her tighter. Later that night, as we lay in bed, she traced circles on my chest with her finger. Do you think you could love me? She asked softly. The question cracked me open. I think I already do, I said. She didn't say anything, but I felt her breath catch. She tucked herself closer to me and whispered, Me too. That was the first time we said it. Not loud, not dramatic, but it echoed through me like a bell. I love you. I carried that moment with me everywhere. In my jacket, in my headphones, in the space between heartbeats. A few days later, I met one of her oldest friends, a sharp, confident woman named Lila. We had drinks at a quiet bar. I was nervous. Lila didn't hide the fact that she was protective. She asked a lot of questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you actually do? Why her? I answered honestly, even when it made me sound unsure. Lila nodded slowly, sipping her wine. You're young, she said. Yeah, but I don't think you're foolish. I exhaled, unsure if that was approval. Later, when we got home, I asked her, Did I pass the test? She laughed. She likes you. Really? She said you don't pretend. I don't know how. That's why she trusts you. We kissed in the hallway, coats still on. That night, she fell asleep with her head on my chest, and I stayed awake for hours, wondering how I'd gotten so lucky. But luck always has a price. One rainy Tuesday, I came over unannounced. Just wanted to surprise her. I let myself in with the key she gave me. The apartment smelled different. Not food or candles, something sharper. Cologne I didn't recognize. I froze. Then I heard voices. Her voice. And a man's. Laughter. My heart raced. I stood in the hallway, not sure whether to call her name or turn around. Then the voices got closer, and she stepped out of the kitchen holding 2 mugs of tea. She froze when she saw me, then smiled. "Hey," she said. A man followed behind her. Tall, stylish, mid-30s. He looked at me with polite curiosity. "Hey," she said again, walking toward me. "I didn't know you were coming. I wanted to surprise you," I said. Her smile faltered slightly. "This is Aaron," she said. "Old friend. He's in town for a day." Aaron extended his hand. "Hey, you must be the boyfriend." I shook it, tried to smile. My stomach was still somewhere near my shoes. "I'll leave you 2 alone," he said. He finished his tea quickly, grabbed his coat, and was out the door in less than 3 minutes. The silence that followed was loud. She looked at me. "I should have told you. You didn't do anything wrong," I said, too quickly. She studied me. "You're upset." I shook my head. I thought." She stepped closer. "Thought what?" "That maybe I was the only one who made you laugh like that." She softened, took my hands. "You are, but that doesn't mean I erase my past." I nodded, still tense. She didn't let go. "I've had friends, lovers, memories, but none of them stayed. You're the one I gave the key to." That hit me, because it was true. She chose me, but that didn't mean it would always be easy. I exhaled slowly, then pulled her into a hug. She rested her head on my shoulder. We stood like that for a long time, letting the rain tap against the windows like applause for getting through another storm. After that evening with Aaron, something shifted between us. Not in a bad way, but in a deeper, more honest way. The kind of shift that happens when 2 people realize they're not just in love. They're in life together, with all its messiness, all its imperfections. We didn't pretend it didn't happen. We talked about it. Late into the night, she told me about her past more openly, the people who hurt her, and the ones she almost hurt in return. I listened, not because I needed every detail, but because I wanted to understand what shaped her. "I've spent years building walls," she said. You make me want to take them down. And that scares you?" She nodded. "Sometimes. But you're still here." "I am." That became a theme between us. We weren't perfect. We had doubts, but we showed up. Again and again. One night, she came over to my place. A small, messy studio apartment with too many canvases and not enough shelves. She curled up on the futon, flipping through one of my sketchbooks. "This one," she said, pointing at a rough charcoal portrait, "feels like me." I looked at it. It wasn't finished, just a silhouette. Soft eyes, uncertain hands, but powerful. "You are in there," I said. She smiled. "You should finish it." "I will." We stayed there that night, the 2 of us squeezed into a bed barely wide enough for one. She laughed every time I rolled too far and nearly fell off the edge. But we didn't care. It wasn't about comfort anymore. It was about closeness. The next morning, we made pancakes in my tiny kitchen. She wore my hoodie, stirred the batter with a fork because I didn't own a whisk. "Your kitchen is a war zone," she said. "It's an artist's battlefield." She laughed and kissed me, powdered sugar on her lips. Life felt like a montage. A quiet mornings, sudden kisses, coffee runs, long walks, movies half-watched, arguments whispered and resolved in the dark. It was messy, but it was ours. One evening, I invited her to meet my parents. She was nervous. "Parents can be tricky," she said. "They'll love you," I promised. And they did. My mom hugged her like she already belonged. My dad asked about her job, her opinions, her dreams, and she answered with grace. Later that night, my mom pulled me aside. "She's strong," she said. "She is. And she loves you." "I know. Don't waste that." "I won't." That night, after dinner, we sat in the car for a while before going upstairs. "You've got a good family," she said. "They're better now that you're in the picture." She looked out the window. "I haven't had that in a long time." I took her hand. "You have it now." She smiled, but behind it was something else. Fear? Doubt? I didn't push. I just held her tighter, because sometimes love isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, like hands that don't let go, even when everything else starts to slip. A few days later, she got a job offer. A big one, out of state, new city, more money, more opportunity, more distance. She told me over coffee. Her hands were wrapped tightly around the mug. She didn't look at me right away. "I haven't accepted," she said. I nodded, unsure of what to say. "It's a great offer," she added, "but I'm not sure I want to start over again." I stayed quiet. Then she looked at me. "I don't want to leave you." And there it was, that quiet truth we hadn't yet spoken aloud. The fact that we were now a part of her decision. I took a breath. "If this is what you want, I'll figure out a way to follow." She blinked. "You would. I'm not saying it would be easy, but I won't let this end because of geography." She leaned in, kissed me. "I don't know if I'm going," she whispered, "but I know I'm not ready to let go of this." And neither was I. The next few weeks were hard. The offer loomed over us like a cloud. Some days we pretended it didn't exist. Other days we talked about apartments, job markets, and what it meant to start over. There were fights, some small, some loud, but always followed by a return to softness, to understanding. One night, after a particularly heated argument, she said, "Why do you still want this? We're so different." And I said, "Because you're my favorite part of every day." That silenced everything. She walked over, put her forehead to my chest. "Even when I'm difficult? Especially then." She laughed and cried, and I held her, knowing that love isn't measured by how easy it is. It's measured by how much we're willing to hold on when it's not. The night before she had to give her answer, we didn't talk about the job. We lay in bed, lights off. The only sound was her breathing and the occasional hum of passing cars. I traced circles on her back with my thumb. She played with the drawstring of my hoodie. Everything in the room felt still, like the whole world was holding its breath with us. Finally, she whispered, "If I go, will you hate me?" "No," I said, voice barely audible. "But I'll miss you more than I know how to say." She turned toward me. "I've never felt this with anyone before," she said, "and I'm terrified I'll lose it." "You won't." "I might. I'll still be here. Even if I leave? If it's right," I said. "We'll find our way back." She was quiet for a long time, and then she cried. Not loudly, not desperately, but the kind of cry that comes when you realize you have something real, and real things don't come without cost. I held her until she fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up to an empty bed. There was coffee brewing in the kitchen, and a note on the counter. "Meeting the team for lunch. I need to decide with a clear head. I'll call you tonight. Don't hate me for needing space." I didn't hate her. I respected her, because she was doing the hardest thing, not running from the decision but standing still inside it. That day felt like a year. I walked for hours, sat in a cafe and stared at my laptop without typing a single word. Went home and laid on the couch, replaying everything. Her laugh, her eyes when she talked about her childhood dog, the way she looked at me that first night, candles flickering, fingers brushing my inked arm. And I knew, whatever happened, I didn't regret a second. That night, she called. I answered on the first ring. She didn't speak right away, but I could hear the wind through her window. "Hey," she finally said. "Hey." I accepted the offer. I closed my eyes, swallowed hard. "Okay. I don't know what happens next," she said. "Neither do I. But I want to figure it out. Together. If you still want to." "Of course I want to," she exhaled, relief and sadness in the same breath. "I'm leaving in 3 weeks. I'll help you pack." "You don't have to." "I want to." We spent those weeks in a strange space between beginning and ending. Everything was sweeter, more intense. Each night we held each other like it might be the last. Each moment burned a little brighter. She found an apartment online, started making lists, met with movers. I helped even though every taped box felt like a goodbye. We didn't label them kitchen or bathroom. We labeled them with inside jokes. Box of weird mugs, unopened candles, memories we don't want to lose. The day she left, I drove her to the airport. We didn't speak much on the way, just held hands across the center console. At the gate, she hugged me for a long time, then pulled back, eyes red. "I don't know what this is now," she said. "I don't either, but I know what it was." She smiled through the tears. "And what was it?" "Real." She nodded. "That's all I needed." We kissed. One last time. Not goodbye, but thank you. And maybe. I watched her walk away, backpack slung over one shoulder, hair pulled into a messy knot. And my heart broke in the quietest, gentlest way possible. Weeks passed. We stayed in touch. Not every day, but enough. Photos of new furniture. Voice notes about new coworkers. One night she called and said, "I walked past a bakery today and smelled cardamom and thought of you." "Funny?" I said. "I smelled French toast the other day and almost cried." We laughed, and we didn't say the things we were both thinking. That we missed each other, that we were lonely, that we were still trying to figure out if what we had could survive the distance. Time passed, and then slowly, quietly, we stopped calling. Texts got shorter, less frequent. Life got louder. Work, friends, other things, other people. But every once in a while, she'd pop into my head like a song I hadn't heard in a long time. Not with pain, but with a strange kind of gratitude. She taught me what it meant to feel again, to open up, to show up, to stop performing and just be. I never stopped loving her. But sometimes, love isn't meant to last forever. Sometimes it's meant to shape you, to remind you that something that beautiful is possible. A year later, I saw her again, by accident, at an art show in a different city. I was exhibiting. She was visiting friends. She spotted me from across the room. We both froze, then smiled. She walked over. Same eyes, same warmth. We hugged, talked for 15 minutes, laughed like no time had passed. She said, "I'm glad you're doing well." I said, "I'm glad you're still magic." We didn't make plans. We didn't ask what could have been. We just said goodbye. And this time it felt okay, because some love stories don't end. They just change shape. They live on in songs, in sketches, in the way you make French toast on Sunday mornings, and in the quiet moments when you light a candle, sit back, and remember what it felt like to be completely, absolutely seen.